完璧などありえない。この世界は不完全だから美しい。もうバカ何？
俺は海賊王になる。なんて美味しさなの。
力を渡した時に言ったことを覚えているかい？食え。違う、そこじゃない。
変態遅い。
Hello and welcome to More Than Hentai, a podcast that is here to show you that anime is just far more than tentacles and cat girls. There's also countless stories of love, loss, laughs, hope, horror, and happiness that it is dying to be found. And I, Brenda White, the Salt and Pepper Senpai, am here to help you find them. More Than Hentai is proudly powered by our friends over at Audio Technica and Dash Water. So please go upgrade your audio and hydration games today, preferably after you listen to this fantastic podcast. And joining me in the Segoy studio is a man far more intelligent than I. When he's not pulling apart the puppet strings of postgraduates in a D&D campaign via the Dungeons and Doctorates podcast, he's pulling the complicated language of science apart and making it far more accessible to average Joes like myself. From an anime standpoint, he's quite the fan of Haikyuu, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, and the worlds of Naruto, Gundam, and Ghibli. You can find him on the socials at Ben Kiernan, which is BenKeiRnan. Ben, you bloody legend, welcome to the studio. How might you be doing?
I'm doing well, very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Hey, thank you for taking time out of your busy, jam-packed schedule to jump on and riff about anime with me. I'm very excited to not only pick your brain about the anime in question that we'll be diving into later, but also just pick your brain about who you are and what you do, because you come from a very interesting line of work. Like when I was sort of reading up a little bit about yourself and what you do, not only on the side with various podcasts, like I mentioned, Dungeon Doctorates, which we'll talk about in a second, but your science background, I'm like, man, this is very unlike most people have had on the podcast. So I'd love to know more about that and who you are and what you do and anything else that you're comfortable sharing here with the audience.
Absolutely. Happy to chat.
All right. Well, yeah, let's get a bit about yourself as far as an origin story perspective goes, and then we can sort of narrow that lens into an anime focus. But let's just talk about Ben as a whole. Yeah, who you are, what you do, any interesting factoids or stories you might be willing to share with us today.
Okay. Well, born and raised in Brisbane, Australia. Went and did an animation degree after school, like at games design, animation stuff.
Okay.
Graduated the year of the global financial crisis, so that didn't pan out as a career. Went back to uni, did a science degree, while at uni at QUT, became the president of the QUT Anime and Manga Society.
Oh, okay. So you've got some chops. We're going to talk about that soon. That's awesome.
300 paying members, which is quite an achievement, one of the largest societies on campus at the time. Spawned a sub-society, the QUT Pokemon Society, which went on to become its own thing. Went and did a Masters of Science Communication at ANU, then moved to Melbourne to do work down in Melbourne as a science communicator. Have been bouncing around the kind of academic science business world ever since, and during this time started a podcast, a science podcast called Non-Peer Review, like a lighthearted look at science news when I was at ANU. Did that for a couple of years and then started another podcast, Dungeons and Doctorates, with a few science communication friends. As you mentioned on my intro, it's 3 PhD students at a fantasy university trying to deal with monsters, magic, and peer reviewers. We've been doing that for about 3 years now. Be kind of breaking into the Australian TTRPG scene. Going to PAX, going to panels. Was just recently on a great charity event with Split the Party over the weekend.
Cool, yeah. Love Matt and his crew there.
Yeah, they did such great work raising money for Game on Cancer. Huge amount of money raised for a really great cause. And it was fantastic hanging out with them live at Fortress Melbourne.
I was sad. I put the hand up initially to join in one of the games, but a couple of life things got in the way. So I sadly had to yeah, missed that one, but I watched along where I could on Twitch, and a couple of other good friends of mine were part of the various casts, and it looked like an absolute hoot there. And man, the production value there was second to none. It was a stunning set to check out, and yeah, Matt's a hell of a DM.
Absolutely, yeah, it was a great time. Even the donations that caused us to have spicy sauce on camera, and play D&D while dealing with the effects of hot sauce. Yeah, good times.
It looks like good times. And man, like just hearing that sort of broad snapshot as far as how you came to be and everything you've done, it makes me feel like I'm very lazy and underperforming in life because, you've done quite a bit. Like you've done 2 degrees. You were head of the Anime and Manga Society. You started up a podcast society, which has spun off again. You've done a few different podcasts. You've relocated from, north to south. Welcome to Melbourne. I was in Brisbane for a few years as well. So I know the vibe up there. It's a good time. QT is a bit of a cool place. And I like that they do embrace the nerdum there a little bit more than some of the other universities, which is very admirable. But man, you're a busy man. Have you ever had the itch again to potentially jump into game development and get, like, I know the game space, for anyone that's not familiar, it's a bit of a wasteland at the moment. It's very unstable and they're cutting costs and cutting jobs left, right, and center, which is horrible. But have you ever had any aspirations to go, you know what, I have an idea for a game I'd like to make one day. Is now the time to make it happen? Or you sort of just left that part of your life behind?
I think I've left that behind. I think I left the starry-eyed childhood like view of game development and approached the reality of game development and like the crunch and the massive amounts of over hours working. It's intense, it's insane, and not a great work-life balance, which is something that I try to achieve. It's always a goal, but because there's life outside of work, as much as you can get it. And I think part of my passion for game development and like animation and things was storytelling. And that's what I'm doing now with my current podcast is telling stories. And a podcast I'm currently in development because I've been doing Dungeons and Doctorates for 3 years now, and we've got 150 something main story episodes, 20 or 30 special episodes with guests we've brought in, a bunch of behind the scenes things. So we've got 200 tracks on our channel. I'm like looking at that going, this is a great achievement. What do I do next? So
that's the age-old question, Ben. That's the age-old question.
Yeah, so I'm spinning off a new science fiction, like horror thriller podcast.
Okay, in the same like role play realm, or is it
in the same role play
different?
realm? Yep. So bringing in guests to participate. Some of the great connections I've made through the Australian TTRPG community, bringing them on as great cast members for like one-shot story arcs where I can really tell a self-contained story, edit it, and then release it, and not try and chase the weekly content release schedule. So that'll be a separate thing, Dungeons and Doctorates, that is still in development. Trying to wrangle myself and 6 cast members who are all very busy people in themselves to get together for recording has been a challenge. So we've got our recording dates. We're a couple of weeks out still. And then probably, fingers crossed, a month to 2 months after recording, that'll come out. And a new show in the science fiction horror environment. Hopefully get some popularity there and hope people like it. But again, with all podcasts, it's important that I like it. It's important that the creator likes it. Because if I'm making it for an audience and not making it for myself, then I'm going to burn myself out.
Yeah, we were talking about this offline before we hit record earlier, as far as the need to love what you do, because if you don't, it's going to be reflected in, I think, the product overall as well, but also, it's going to impact your mental health in a big way, because we work hard, we have lives outside of all these passion projects. So when you are taking time out of that life to invest into these content creation journeys, you want to be loving what you're doing. Otherwise, at least for me, like if I'm not loving it, I'm not doing it. So
Yeah, exactly.
I hope that drive and passion regarding this new sci-fi horror spin-off stays around for a long time, because they're two worlds that I love. So I can't wait to actually listen to that. Hopefully, in the next few months? I don't want to like force you down to a committed timeline, but in the next few months, you'd say?
I would say August, September is what I'm looking for in my release schedule for that. It's going to be, I'm looking for a very polished audio drama is what I'm thinking. Like those like radio plays, or they'd have like sound effects and stuff, like a really polished thing. That's what I'm looking for. Really good atmospheric music. Looking for some great. I mean, I've got a logo. I've got some of my social media accounts are up. Still just kind of getting all the scaffolding in place to then launch when I'm ready. And I'm sure when I am ready to launch, you will see it on social media, and I'll give you a shout out and let you know when it's coming out.
Hell yeah, I'm keen to see it. But as I wanted to mention just from the intro again, at BENKEIRNAN is where you can find Ben to stay up to date on all the fantastic projects he is working on. But yeah, science communication, that is very interesting. I never heard of this concept or this subset of the science world before, but then sort of doing a bit of research and trying to wrap my head around what the heck that means, it makes so much more sense to me. So I guess in layman's terms, like a science communicator, I guess that's someone that takes all that dense scientific verbiage that is probably too much for the common person to grasp, and then you convey that into a relatable term that can then be used in marketing and press releases and just general communications to allow the public to actually understand what great things might have happened or been discovered, right? That's the best way you describe it?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of science communicators are either scientists or journalists, because they're doing science and they have to learn to communicate their own stuff, or they're journalists who specialize in science news stories. So that some of the best science communicators work for people like the ABC and like newspapers and things. Like there are some great science communicators out there working in journalism. But then you've got people in the middle, science communicators, who work generally for large research organizations or universities, helping to do the communications work, the comms work, to connect scientists to the public, and to often connect business with the universities, and try and do like social media stuff and events and press releases and putting out longer form articles, and then dealing with some of the trickier side of things, like the behind the scenes, like boring stuff that happens internally in those organizations, where there's a weekly newsletter that needs to go out, and it's telling the stories about what's happening, and that's not necessarily the most glamorous work, but it need to make the organization work. It needs to chug along, and sometimes you have to put the time in to do that. I mean, I love my job, but every job is a job. There's an expression that if you love your job, you never have to work a day in your life. But let me tell you, my friend, I've worked some days. I've worked some days.
Yeah, I love how optimistic that quote is, but also how naive it is as well. Because I love what I do for the most part, but there's times where I'm just like, kill me now, I am done. But it doesn't mean I hate what I do. It's just that's life. No one's happy all the time.
Yeah, I love podcasting, but I look at my backlog of content to edit, and it's like, that's 3 hours I have to go through and just listen to and edit, and that 3 hours of audio is going to turn into 4 to 5 hours of me working on it probably. It's something I love doing, but I don't necessarily want to be like, okay, well, that's 5 hours of my life that I have to go and do a thing. And luckily podcast editing, I'm not out there in the hot sun laying bricks and things. I can do other stuff while I edit, but it's still like a bunch of time. And undiagnosed neurospicy brain doesn't like the idea of like, here is something you have to do. Here is something that has a set amount of time roughly it's going to take. It's like, well, but what if I have to change that light bulb first? What if I have to go do dishes first? What if I have to and you turn on your and like the part of the issue is as well, it's like I turn my computer on to do this editing and it's like, well, what's happening on social media? And then that's like 2 hours gone scrolling through the feeds, and then suddenly it's like, oh well, there goes my day.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to tackle, I'd imagine, because like there's a part of you that's like, I just want to get this done, but like you said, there's so many other distractions or variables that then creep in that you go, no, I've got to do this, or what about that? And it can really derail a day or an evening or a weekend. So
I mean, having two monitors, being able to edit on one screen and do something else on the other, very helpful. I've really gotten into some low energy games that I can edit and play games like Dwarf Fortress. I can play Dwarf Fortress and edit at the same time, because Dwarf Fortress is like, you don't have to sit there and be like button mashing to try and survive. It's like, well, you go mine out this area and collect the gold or whatever. And I just let that run in the background while I do editing, or like playing some emulated Pokemon games or something, just like trying to keep whatever's going on in my brain to like, okay, we're going to focus on this task, but also have this other task going to keep us distracted, but distracted in a way that helps us focus.
That's it. Yeah. The split screen is sort of controlling both sides of the brain concurrently, just to keep everybody happy and at bay.
That's it.
Yeah, no, it's good. I do the same. I keep myself busy while editing, because it can be a menial, like it's a fun and can be rewarding once it's done and you can hear that thing in post, but it is a menial task that can be very time consuming. So being able to keep yourself occupied with games, or I've watched stuff usually, which can be difficult, because then you got audio overlaying and clashing in my head, trying to work out what I heard.
That's my problem. Like I've loved to just catch up on stuff. Like I've got a huge watch list of things I want to watch, but like editing a podcast and watching something at the same time, my brain doesn't like it. It's too much. Like I'm listening to one thing and trying to watch or listen to another thing. It doesn't work. So I've had to find other things that I can do, like play mobile games or something, like just to keep the two media channels separate enough that I can focus on editing and not lose track of it.
That's it, because the last thing you want is everything just to become white noise. So there is a balance that we all need to strike. But let's sort of narrow the lens a little bit onto the topic of anime. I mentioned some of your favorites there, but let's sort of hear about your origin story, some of the things you love and don't love within the anime space. And if you wanted to dive deep or brush over any personal favorites, we're sort of happy to do that as well. So where did you stumble across this fantastic world of anime initially?
I think, like many people, my intro to anime was early morning TV, watching Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, Digimon, those kinds of things. I was very fortunate as a child that my family had Foxtel, so we were able to watch Cartoon Network, which is where I got Toonami. So watching things like Tenchi Muyo and Gundam Wing, those are kind of like... So I would say Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, those are like, oh, here is mainstream, like very mainstream anime that even now, still ongoing. And then that led me to, like, I loved cartoons. So I was watching cartoons and I'm like, oh, what's this other thing? This is some cartoons from Japan. Cool. And then, Tenchi Muyo, Magic, and a Harem, which I've moved away from harem comedies as I've gotten older. The cringe is too much for me now these days, and the fan service is something I no longer. I'm like, nah. Like as a young teenage boy, that was fine.
Yeah, it ticks all the boxes as a young man, but as you mature, in parentheses, it can get a little.
Like,
where's little
this
Finn?
Is a little exploitative. How old are these characters? I'm too old now. This is not okay. And then like Gundam Wing, probably was and like Evangelion was the intro to a very long-term passion of mecha anime. I think I've watched almost all the Gundam now,
apart from The Witch from Mercury so far, unless things have changed the last few weeks.
Haven't seen The Witch from Mercury. I haven't seen I think there's like one or two really old Gundam series I haven't seen or finished. Like I started watching Mobile Fighter G Gundam, got most of the way through that, and then life got in the way. I watched whatever Gundam has Gundam X in it. I haven't seen a lot of the Build Fighters stuff actually. I've seen Build Fighters, I've seen Build Divers, haven't seen whatever the latest Build Divers is, because there's a bunch of those. Those are fun. But yeah, like I've watched a lot of Gundam, a lot of mecha anime in my time. There's a lot of it though, and some of it doesn't tick all the boxes I want to watch. There's, I would say, early 2000s or like early 2010s, there was an era of mecha anime where CG became the default, because obviously trying to animate complicated geometric structures, they were like, well, why don't we just make it in 3D? And then when we want to spin the robot around, we can just spin the robot in 3D and that it'll look fine. And it doesn't look fine.
It does not, Ben. It really does not. It breaks my heart anytime I see a massive reliance on CG. Like the only anime I feel recently that has complemented the traditional art of animation with CG is Demon Slayer. The way they can weave in CG for some of the fight scenes and the breathing techniques, it is gorgeous, and it doesn't take away from that traditional hand-drawn aesthetic where, like you mentioned, some of the other ones where they just lean fully into it. It just breaks it down and turns it into watered-down mush.
Yeah, I think probably with more modern render software and like integrating it better with the scenes, CGI has come a long way. Like you look at the modern, like the reconstruction of Evangelion movies, all the Avas are CG, but they look incredible because they've rendered them and they've composited them in a way that makes them look 2D, because they've got the shaders right, they've got the line art right. And like I recently watched 86's.
It's so good.
Yeah,
I love 86.
That mecha is all CG, and I think mecha like does very well with CG because you are dealing with mechanical shapes for the most part. Organic CG still looks a bit funny at times, but I mean, I watched I've watched some great shows that are like CG characters, CG everything, and some of those, I mean, you have to give them a bit of leeway. They aren't going to be nearly as good as hand drawn. But I watched Land of the Lustrous, and that's CG. Those characters are CG because you've got that incredible like light diffraction stuff happening when their bodies get cracked open. That would be insanely difficult to do in hand drawn 2D, but it's much more. Well, it's still difficult, but it's much simpler in CG. So yeah, I guess I started with those classic animes. High school, got really into like your Fruits Basket, Inuyasha, Chobits, you know, a bunch of stuff that I might like look back on now and cringe. Like your like, do you remember like Please Teacher?
I do remember Please Teacher. Like I've got a high threshold for cringe though, so I rewatched Chobits and Inuyasha. Chobits
and Inuyasha, I think
they still hold up.
They still hold up. Chobits has a few moments where you're like, the power button is where? Sorry, but like you Please Teachers, the sequel Please Twins, which is another level. Midori Days, where the girl he has a crush on becomes his right hand. No, the girl who has a crush on him becomes his right hand. But like some of those older shows I look back on and I go, why do I have these on DVD still? Do I?
Because you're a fan of the classics, mate. That's why.
Well, bottom of the shelf in the corner is where they live.
They're not sort of pride of place, that's for sure. They're like that's a time we don't really talk about anyone that's coming in to see
some
my
of those
collection.
old ones are like Orphan, Sorcerer, Stabber, Orphan, Hack Sign, Kino's Journey. Again, I'm sorry, I'm imagining that a large part of your audience is like, what are these Western names for these titles? But like that's how I learnt them. Like all the Studio Ghibli movies are incredible. So yeah, I learnt about anime more in high school. Went to Supernova Anime Convention in Brisbane. Was like, here are my people. I understand. I am not alone. eventually went and did an animation degree where I'm like surrounded by anime people, and then went back to university later, QUT, found they had an anime and manga society, joined up,
Ascended the ranks.
quickly. I became the like one of the events people that helped out, like doing that, and then eventually became president of the Anime Manga Society. They have a they had, and I hope still do, I don't know anymore, a great weekly screening every week, a Wednesday or a Thursday night, whatever it might be now, would have a themed screening. So one week would be mecha, next week would be sport or music or like games, or shonen, shoujo, like whatever it might be. And we would screen 2 episodes, the first 2 episodes from 4 different shows, just like a taster to try and like, hey, here are some things from this genre that you've maybe never experienced before. And like, I have never been super into sports if it wasn't obvious from my anime science background, a bit of a couch potato maybe. Never big into sports, but like watching the first 2 episodes of Haikyuu, I was like sold. Show me the rest of this anime. This looks fantastic. I leaned into like, okay, talking to my friend, you're really into music, like music anime. Recommend me some things and we'll screen them. And like, I'm not super into like Sound Euphonium or Love Live, although I have watched the first whole season of Love Live because I guess that was a marathon we did. There was enough popularity. But there are some of those out there where I'm like, oh, this music is a theme for this, but it's not what this show is about.
Yeah, there's so much more than just that sort of top layer of the concept or the genre that they're trying to tackle. There's so many other themes that they unpack throughout the episodes.
Yeah, I mean, like Haikyuu, if you told me it's an anime about volleyball, or I'd be like, I don't know about that. But like the relationships between the characters, the story, like that's what gets you. And then through that vehicle, they get you to care about the volleyball matches. And like, I remember watching, Haikyuu and like sitting in my room, like cheering when they'd like doing well in the sport. I'm like, what's happened to me? But at the same time, I watched Haikyuu and was able to carry a conversation with somebody who semi-professionally played volleyball. I'm like, oh, what setting do you like? What position do you play? Oh, you're a setter. Cool. It must be really hard doing those like, deep digs and things. And the person like fully believed I could play volleyball because I knew the terminology. I knew what I was talking about because of that show. I mean, you can talk about learning things through anime. Spice and Wolf taught me about medieval economies, which is not what I expected going into that anime. You talk about a anime about a medieval trader meets like an old wolf god who is naked a bunch of the time, and they go on a road trip together. Didn't expect that to turn into how to scam a medieval economy, how to deal with trade and bartering in that system. Yeah, like I have learned a bunch of random stuff through anime. Probably like many anime fans, I picked up some Japanese, not enough to carry myself in a conversation. And so I was involved in anime for a long time. That has kind of dropped off as I've left university and life has kind of gotten in the way. I have interesting views on anime and dubs as well.
Okay, let's hear them, because full disclosure, I accept all anime. Obviously, there is a sometimes a cliff-based gap between a good dub and a bad dub. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, you consume your anime however you want. We're never going to yuck anybody's yums here. But what are your takes here, Ben?
I think that dubs in general have matured.
Yeah.
I grew up watching some truly horrendous dubs. I mean, you can look at a lot of the Funimation dubs, like the One Piece, as a classic example of a bad dub and some bad localization. Let's take all these Navy people and get rid of all their guns, because in an age of sail, nobody has guns. We've all got mallets and things instead. Yeah, so like I grew up in a time where you watched subs because the dub was terrible. And then over time, that has changed. And the exceptions being Studio Ghibli, because those dubs are done like a Hollywood level production.
Mm-hmm.
There's Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind has Patrick Stewart as a voice actor. Like there are some incredible. I mean, you probably get into an argument about should you be getting professional voice actors or celebrities. That's a different debate. But I very much now watch things dubbed if I can, because I think most dubs these days, and unless I read online that the dub is terrible and they've ruined something, most dubs these days are good. And you can watch them and enjoy them. And sometimes the localization is important, because there might be some wordplay that happened in the Japanese that, unless you speak Japanese and unless the subtitle tells you there is wordplay happening, you miss that joke.
Yeah.
You miss that influence. Whereas if they translate it, I think actually, here's a fantastic example, and I'm pulling it from the past. Yu-Gi-Oh! So many of the duelists in Yu-Gi-Oh! Have puns for names. The dinosaur duelist Rex Raptor, his Japanese name is a pun on dinosaurs, but if you like, it's not a pun that translates. And so many things like that have great translations in certain parts, maybe not everything. I mean, you can talk at, but then at the same time, you've got shows like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, great dub.
Yeah,
fantastic
phenomenal dub.
Some of the love I have for JoJo is the English in the Japanese sub. Like the characters, oh no, like, and you miss that in the dub because they're already speaking English. I will say, this is going to be a controversial statement. I'm going to tell you there's an anime that has a better dub than a sub.
Okay, I'm listening.
This is because the anime is set in like mobster era New York.
Mm-hmm.
It's Baccano is the anime. It is set in Prohibition era New York. Everyone has a New York or a Boston accent, like they're really American sounding. And I tried listening to the Japanese and I'm like, is this what a Japanese person thinks an American, like a New York person sounds like? Because maybe it is. And maybe a Japanese person would listen to that and go, oh yes, that's how an American person sounds while speaking Japanese. But while listening to it in English, you get those voices and you get those accents. And I think it like elevates the story.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Like a good dub can add so much more weight and context to that localization for us. And the bigger picture thing, it helps. We were talking about our brains wanting to do many things at once. Having a dub allows us to do other things where I can be watching something and messaging on my phone at the same time, where if I'm wholly solely focused on that sub, I do get a great experience because I'm just laser focused and watching every word that comes up on the screen there. But sometimes, we're busy people. It's hard to multitask or give full attention to something 100% of the time. So,
especially something with action. A lot of action shows, like I want to be able to like absorb all the action happening. If I have to read at the same time, I'm going to miss some of this incredible like animation work. And at the same time, when you've got really heavy drama scenes and they're revealing something really important and it's meant to be a big moment, if I can read faster than they're speaking, then that dramatic moment is not going to happen at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have read ahead faster than the person is speaking, and when they say the thing that is meant to be the moment, we all go, oh my god, I've already read that.
Yeah, the impact is subdued then slightly. And I'm happy seeing more and more, like the most recent one that comes to mind for me is seeing Kaiju number 8 with day one simultaneous dub drops on launch. Sadly, some of the other big name anime out there, the dub is still a few weeks behind every time. And with my brain, where I just want it and need it as quick as I can, I don't have the patience or the resistance to say, no, I'm going to wait 2 weeks until the dub comes out. So a lot of the main stuff that's dropping, I'll consume it instantaneously in the sub. But if there is a high quality dub like a Kaiju available, I will lean that way because I can then be more present to what's happening on the screen instead of focusing on that sub bar down below.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But for anyone that is stopping by More Than Hentai for the first time, the way this podcast works is we do a singular focus deep dive on the first episode of an anime that at least one of us on the podcast here have yet to watch prior to recording. And so we sort of work out what the co-host or the guests' enjoyment factors are with general viewing, tropes that they like or tropes that they're trying to avoid. The title in focus for today's episode is a shonen adventure fantasy known as Frieren Beyond Journey's End, which is a multi-award-winning manga series written by Kanehito Yamada and illustrated by Asuka Abe. It debuted in Weekly Shonen Sunday during April of 2020, with its chapters since collected into 13 tankobon volumes and has over 20 million copies in circulation at time of recording, which is the 1st of June 2024. God damn, I forgot it's June now. But anyway, an anime television adaptation produced by Madhouse, known for legendary titles such as Death Note, One Punch Man, Hunter x Hunter, Monster, and Black Lagoon, began airing from September of 2023 through to March of 2024, with 28 episodes spread across one season currently available at time of recording, as well as a prequel novel available for reading should you choose. Frieren can be found on Crunchyroll and Netflix, pending your region, and currently holds a score of 9.36 on My Anime List based on 409,000 unique user reviews, making it the number one ranked anime overall on the website. And the story of Frieren Beyond Journey's End is as follows. The story follows a hero's party on a decade-long quest to defeat the Demon King. The party members, Himmel, Haida, Eisen, and Frieren, bond through adventures, but Frieren, an elf with a 1,000-year lifespan, sees her time with them as fleeting. After victory, she returns to her routine without attachment. Over time, she realizes the profound impact of her companions' deaths and resolves to understand humans better. Despite the journey's end, a new chapter of personal growth awaits her. So, Ben, we're going to be deep diving on episode 1, front to back. Listeners, nothing is off limit for the first episode. We will not go beyond that. We will not spoil major plot twists and turns and big reveals that happen throughout the 28 episode run that's currently available. But episode 1 is called The Journey's End. Ben, let's start with just your general impressions overall from the episode, and then we can sort of go granular from there and sort of go beat for beat. So, what was your vibes overall on Frieren Beyond Journey's End?
I really liked it. This is one that I'm probably going to continue watching. As just a quick TLDR, yeah, absolutely, this is something I really enjoyed. I love a good fantasy story, if it wasn't obvious from my podcasting background. I think it was really refreshing, and maybe this is just the oversaturation of isekai anime. It was nice to have an anime where everything is already in the fantasy world. Like, we aren't bringing someone into this world and giving them some power or making them a vending machine or something.
Yeah, no one got hit by a bus and has woken up in this world.
Yeah,
this
exactly. I mean, that is
an
an interest. Like, that's a narrative technique to, like, we're going into a fantasy world. You don't know anything because the main character doesn't know anything, and he's going to learn everything. And so when people explain how the world works to the main character, because they don't know, they can explain it to the audience. It's a fine narrative technique, but I think we're oversaturated with isekai. I don't think that's a controversial thing to say, but I think the fantasy genre has been in the past a very strong genre, and I think there are still some excellent shows in it, but they haven't been as many recently because of the isekai. There are some great isekai, I love them, but not all of them. So great to see a fantasy story. Great to see a story where everybody is from that world. Lovely animation. Really nice character designs. Really enjoyed... I just really enjoyed the exploration of the elven timescale. As somebody who has read lots, Lord of the Rings, so many fantasy tropes. Elves live for a very long time, and so often humans are the main character because they're relatable. They're just like, we are human, we get it. And elves are these ethereal, timeless beings who show up to a story, and then the story ends, and they still continue on. But this story has the elf as the main character, at least in the first episode. I'm not sure if things change going on, but having a character who, okay, well, I'm going to go off and do this thing. I'll see you in 10 years. To them is, it's a weekend, like it's a week for them, like it's nothing. And then they show back up, and humans have aged a whole bunch because we do that. 10 years or 50 years is a big time span for us. Having a character whose lifespan is so much longer come to terms with that, I think is really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And just I wrote a couple of lines as far as my general impression, and it's mirroring you beat for beat just about, where I just wrote, stunning in every sense of the word. Madhouse were on one with the animation, as both the world and characters are gorgeous. The use of sound and music was very impressive, especially in the quieter moments. It feels like the use of sound and music in these non-speaking moments just really emphasize emotion and hits me hard. And I felt that the storytelling within this fantasy world is so fresh and so distinctive. And I actually wrote in here as well, in stark contrast to just the constant wave of isekai that drops every season. This story of Frieren and the people she meets along the way is just so unique out there today that it really stood apart from me, not only just like this season and the past 12 months, but for the last several years. Like, it's just a great story that gets told here, and I felt this is perfect fantasy storytelling overall. Like, I've watched all the anime, I've watched all 28 episodes, I've started working through the manga now as well, and I obsess and adore this world, and I obsess and adore over Frieren, the character, because she's fantastic. And we'll talk more in relation to, the perception of time between elves and humans. But I like that is brought up regularly throughout this 20-odd minute first episode run, where they don't take much time at all to establish this world and the concepts. And seeing this fantasy world through the eyes of an elf is so different to everything else that we see out there. And I like that she's front and center. And it makes you appreciate the time you have watching this anime. Even just watching this first episode, like you mentioned, the 10 and 50 year gaps where Frieren just feels like it's just a drop in the ocean to her, but that's half a lifetime for some of these characters, or a full life for some characters. And she's like, I'll see you at the next media shower, don't worry about it. And they're like, it's in 50 years. And she's like, it's all good, don't worry. Like, it really puts things in perspective for me to appreciate the time I have. So I like that I'm learning, but I can take real life lessons out of a fantasy anime from an elvish girl. It's so good, Ben.
Oh yeah, and I can see where the story is going as well. I'm pretty sure I know where the story is going. I'm sure there are going to be some twists and turns. There was a moment in this first episode, towards the end of the first episode, where the priest is like, hey, can you translate this book? No, sorry, he's like, can you train this person to be a mage? I don't have time to take on an apprentice. Okay, well, what if you translate this book, and while you're translating this book, you just, teach you a little bit? Oh yeah, this will take about 6 months. Sure, or however.
No, it was 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, 5 to 6 years. This will only take about 5 to 6 years. I guess I can train her while I'm translating this book, which will take 5 to 6 years. And I immediately, I'm like, this priest understands this character enough to be like, 5 to 6 years for you is nothing, but for this young mage in his care, like that's an apprenticeship. 5 to 6 years is an apprenticeship. And so, by asking her to translate this book, that is fulfilling his goal to help the young girl. I really liked that. I really like how she goes to a store and then comes back years later. Oh, do you have this thing in here? No, we haven't had that for years. I was here last time I visited. Damn. Like, because you haven't been here for years. You don't stick around. Yeah.
Frieren's concept of time is unlike any of the characters you meet in this first episode. Like, there is some some mixing and matching with elves in future episodes. Not going to spoil anything there, but yeah, she isn't like the last of her kind or anything like that. Like she is part of a common race, for lack there of a better term. But yeah, Frieren to me, like going full circle to the referencing about video games and whatnot from the start of the episode, this is like a walking simulator meets a cozy game. Like it's just comfort food for me watching this anime because it's beautiful to look at. The storytelling is really, really expertly executed. A lot of the time they are just cruising. It's about the little moments, especially in this first episode, and we'll sort of unpack the sort of the main beats of the episode shortly. But yeah, it's just feels nice to me. It's a warm hug of an anime, and I like that it's quieter and it's not just balls to the wall action and insanity and exploitation. It's just a nice, comfortable watch, and it makes you feel good.
Yeah, I think I've definitely been watching a bunch more of those shows recently because I've been trying to introduce more anime to my partner. And so we've watched Ranking of Kings,
which is great.
Which is again, it's like it's a much, it has some action moments, but it is mostly like cute child doing, cute things, and very soft and slow. Spy Family, again. But like I have a history of watching like Kino's Journey, which is a character traveling from kingdom to kingdom. Like every society is different. Mushishi, which is kind of, I would describe as like the Doctor Who of anime, where every episode has a different cast of characters except for the one main character who shows up. Like, oh, there's a problem happening. This character shows up, does some like spirit magic stuff by understanding the spirits and like helping them relate to them and understand the spirits. And then he continues his journey, and each episode's different. And so I have a history of watching some of these nicer, slower paced shows that I think if you're only watching action shows, if you're only watching like your My Hero Academias, your Jujutsu Kaisen, like if you're only watching action-packed things, you're missing out on shows that are a bit slower paced, that get to explore moments and have moments where nobody is talking. They're just moving through a scene. You're enjoying nature. You're enjoying the environment, but having impactful moments as well.
Yeah, and those impactful moments just hit so much more. Like you become numb to it in some of these other anime where it's just constant action set piece after action set piece, and yeah, it's stunning to watch, and it's still a great viewing experience.
I love My Hero, like some of the best shonen anime out there. But
agreed.
Like, having a tournament arc so early was a great stroke of genius for them, showing off all the powers. But like some of the best moments in My Hero
are the quieter moments.
Yeah, because they're the moments that let you have character development, where you like get to spend time with characters, because some of the action scenes are incredible. I love them. And some of those character moments are in big action scenes. But if everything is action, like it's a ramp, it's a storytelling ramp. Like if everything is going up and up and up and up and up, then the only thing that will impact you is a bigger action scene. Whereas if you have this up and down, like bigger moment, calm, bigger moment, calm flow, then the action hits you so much more because you're used to it being calm and slow and enjoyable and like just easy. And then suddenly like an action scene happens and you're like, oh my God, this is incredible. Yeah, I have some thoughts about character stories, like flow and things. And that's a lot of the issues with some modern action movies, maybe, where it's all action all the time and you don't get enough character development through quiet moments.
Yeah. Quiet moments for me is some of my favorite viewing experiences in and out of anime, whether it be film, TV, anime, video games, reading a manga or a novel. Like those quiet moments where you see the characters reflect, take stock, emotionally decompress what has happened or is about to happen, like that roller coaster. I love that slow ascent before that big massive dip. I love that slow build up.
Yeah, especially when you can see it coming, when you can feel it coming as well. And the characters know that something's about to happen, but they don't know what. You as the audience like are on this journey with them. And that is, I think, very important. Because if your heart rate's constantly going, then those action moments aren't going to hit the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you 1000%. And yeah, Frieren is certainly not of that ilk. It is a bit more of a slow, subdued. It is one of the kiddie type of coaster at a Wonderland or at a theme park where, yeah, you're going to have some ups and downs, but for the most part, it's a nice, cruisy, comfortable ride, at least in this first episode. Obviously, we're not going to unpack what's happened in the following 27 episodes. But yeah, this first episode, I like that it starts differently than most episode ones we get these days, where it's usually a cold open. We introduce the character. In this, it's like, nah, we get that absolute banger of an OP. Yoasobi is one of my favorite musical acts that I've discovered through this anime journey. And the opening track from Yoasobi called Yusha is a really fun, interesting track. Anyone that's heard anything that Yoasobi's done, she's like the lead vocalist. She's got a phenomenal voice, and it just perfectly harmonizes with just about any anime that they're thrown into as far as writing an OP or an ED. And yeah, the track leads us off. We get some really cool imagery here introducing us to the broader ensemble cast. We see a lot of focus on Frieren, obviously. But my favorite shot in the whole open is right at the end of the opening itself, where we see this really cool transition where the camera is panning. It pans from left first, and you see the party of heroes, and then it pans to the right, and we see a couple of future party members that Frieren may or may not be involved in throughout this season. But as it pans from left to right and back again, Frieren's in the middle the entire time. And it's just really, really cleverly shot. And it's just a nothing scene, but it's really, really good subdued storytelling there as far as, okay, that's the past, here's the future, and yet the constant here, is Frieren. And the opening really set the tone for me, set the mood, and made me feel good right off the get-go.
Yeah, I agree. I do have some thoughts about intros spoiling things in the future in shows. You don't want necessarily like the second episode intro to spoil a big moment that's going to happen later down the line. Like Seraph at the end did that, showing that a character became a vampire when you thought that they had died. I specifically told my friends when they were watching that, skip the intro until the 4th or 5th episode, because otherwise it will spoil big character moments.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, I don't think it spoiled something. I think it made me interested in what's going to happen, because it, like, the idea that, cause in the first episode we have, this character spends 50 years going off and learning new magic, comes back and her friends have aged. That I don't think is unexpected. So, the idea that there will be new people in her life isn't a spoiler.
No, it's a very well executed opening. Yeah, it's got a banger of a track. The art style in the opening and the ending especially is gorgeous. The ending is very different. We'll talk about it at the end, but just sort of high level stuff. Just the art that they use in the end is so distinctive compared to everything else that you see in this anime, and it really stands out. So it's bookended really strongly with a great open and a great close, which I am very thankful that Madhouse put together, because it just creates this beautiful, tasty anime sandwich with some really delicious opening and closing bread there. But we get this really fun opening, introduces to the characters loosely, a real fun toe tapper that gets you in the mood, sets the tone. We're then presented with a static image showing a map of the continent, and we get this quote from Flame, the legendary mage, talking about Oriole is, I think, how you pronounce the city and the capital's name, where, this is a place called heaven where, souls go to rest and heroes go to meet in past and present lives and stuff like that. And then we're introduced to Frieren. Her head is in a book, as you'll come to realize is a constant with this beautiful little elf girl. She's reading in a book. She's traveling through some absolutely gorgeous lands. Like, the animated scenery here is stunning. So she's in this horse and cart with her party of heroes, and then we can hear Heimel from out of shot saying, "Oh, we're getting close to the capital," and she pops up and pops her head out of the book and sits with the party of 4 as they make their way into the royal capital. And again, like, the animation here is stunning, Ben. Like, this world is gorgeous. It is a believable and relatable, which is weird to say, fantasy world. Like it's got that landscaping that's familiar in our world, but also very familiar in many a fantasy story.
Classic European medieval fantasy.
Yeah. So really gorgeous, and we start to see sort of the potential tone shifts here that constant throughout this first episode, where it's nice and subdued, but then they just sprinkle a little bit of comedy in here and a little bit of social commentary as well, where they're making their way into the capital, and then Heimel's like, we better find some work after saving the world. So you sit there and go, God damn, these guys have just defeated the Demon King, and now they're like thinking, God damn, we've got to go make some more money, because this job clearly didn't pay very well. And we find out later that the king of the royal capital only offered them 10 copper coins, I think it was, to take down the Demon King, which is disgusting. But I like that it's grounded. You can already see, okay, these 4 people aren't going to be, showcased throughout this series as larger than life gods that are, ruling over potential empires and things.
Yeah, definitely sets the scene for these characters. I think it does a great job of introducing all, because these characters, apart from Frieren, we don't get to see that much, I imagine, throughout the rest of the show. Specifically one of them because of his mortal human lifespan. But I mean, we get to meet these characters, and very quickly we establish that we've got a bookish elven wizard. We've got a drunken priest. Drunken priest. We've got your kind of light-hearted, good-spirited like fighter, with the swordsman, and then we've got the kind of grumpy, like bit gruff dwarven character. These are all apart from maybe the drunken priest, pretty standard fantasy tropes. Yeah. And I think a drunken priest is not so uncommon for tropes. We've been doing that in anime for a while, having the lecherous priest or the drunken priest to take on the holy man.
Yeah, it's a fun take, and meeting these 4, like Frieren, Heimel, Eisen, and Heiter as the 4 in the party. They're distinctive, but you can see in these very brief moments in the introduction that they're friends. They care for one another. They enjoy one another's company. And there's just one line before we jump into them making it into the royal capital, which I thought was really great. Not only conveying their opinions in this situation, but also how this anime and this manga is going to play out overall, where Heimel says, slaying the Demon King was one chapter, but we read on as we have other stories yet to tell and other lives yet to live. So I like that, where I'm like, okay, this is very different than most fantasy that we consume, where the goal is to kill the Demon King. So you see them level up and go through all the trials and tribulations to get there to slay the big bad. But in this one, the big bad's already gone. So we're in the world of peace now, the era of peace, I should say. And, it's what comes next. So it's already very different to 99.9% of most fantasy content that you consume.
Well, that's, because so often the slaying the Demon King or equivalent is the story.
Yeah.
That is the challenge that has to be overcome. It is narratively straightforward. You can wrap your head around it. You might not necessarily understand the powers or the relationship the Demon King has with the world, but at least okay, Demon King, probably bad, has some underlings, some monsters to defeat. That's going to be the story. This one is really interesting and different. We've done that. It's happened. Now what? And I think that is a story that doesn't get told, Mary. Usually, this episode would be the epilogue of another series.
Yeah, 100%.
It's we've defeated the Demon King, and then this episode is what happens in the end credits of that show. The characters rock up to the city, the king, the people are all cheering for them, and they witness a shooting star, moment. They have that friendship moment together, and then they all go off and do their own things. That is the end epilogue for 90% of other fantasy, defeated the big bad, okay, and now we go off and we're going to have other stories to tell, and like it leaves it open for future stories if the creator wants to come back and do a sequel. But yeah, this one starts there, and I'm curious to see how the show progresses, like what happens next. And we do kind of get some of that.
Yeah, it really hooked me, Ben, because it is such an inverse to most of the fantasy that I'm used to consuming. I was like, all right, this is completely fresh, completely unique storytelling to what I've been digesting for the last several years or decades or whatever time period you want to attach to my anime and fantasy consumption. But yeah, it just really grabbed to me where I'm like, okay, I love this because usually that epilogue, you get the nice, convenient bow being placed on top of the present. We've had the story, we've had the big boss battle, and you're left feeling warm and fuzzy about, now they're going to go live lives and grow old and raise kids and all that stuff. But in that moment, the credits are rolled and the anime's over, where this is just the beginning. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'm intrigued. This is resetting the narrative that I'm so familiar with. Let's see where they go with this. So yeah, in the first 5 minutes, I was like, yep, I'm hooked. And I was hooked again rewatching the first few episodes over the last couple of days just to refresh my memory. And so yeah, we get the hero's return scene, the streets of the royal capital aligned with people celebrating and toasting them to their successes for slaying the Demon King. We get a really quick moment where they're back in with the king, who's thanking them for all their deeds. We also find out during this little montage of high fives and good times that they went on this journey for 10 years to fight the Demon King. They were out fighting and questing and trying to save the world for a decade. And yeah, all they got paid was 10 copper coins, which is still
literally another show, another show's worth of content of them questing and adventuring. And we're dropped in at the end of it because like that's not what this story is about.
Which I love because it's so fresh and it's just so exciting to have something that's new to me as a viewer and a reader, where I'm like, yeah, this is like, I love me some fantasy. I love that world and the tropes and the archetypes that I'm so used to. But the fact that they went, no, you don't know how this is going to play out. And let's skip the meat that you're so used to, chewing through in most fantasy stories and give you the what happens next. I'm like, yes, I'm so in. But yeah, we get some really good back and forth after they're having a bit of a celebration here, toasting to their successes with each other. And you can see everyone in the Royal Capital are very overjoyed and happy because, yeah, we're now welcoming the era of peace, as I mentioned earlier. But we do get some really quick snapshot reflections as far as, remember when we fought this thing or went to here and, this moment was great and I really enjoyed this situation that played out. But there was another line that happened in here from Heimel, the hero, again, where he said, "You made this quest the journey of my lifetime." So there's just these little lines throughout not only this first episode, but also throughout the entirety of the anime and the manga, where it's poetry to me. Some of the things they say, where there's just these little lines and these little moments that just feels like poetry on screen. And yeah. I'm in, Ben. I'm so in.
That's he's Heimel. He's the human. One of the humans. He's has to be early to mid 20s, maybe. So like, if he started adventuring when he was like 15, like literally, this is his life. He's been doing this for 10 years. That is your early, like your late adolescence to like adulthood. Like that has shaped who you are as a person. That is your life. You have been this hero. And so when he says like that was, this has been my life, he's not over exaggerating it. Like it has been 10 years of a human's lifespan. And if you look at, our own lives, you think back 10 years, what have I done in 10 years? Where was I 10 years ago? And you think, what if I went on an adventure for 10 years at that point? Like that is such a big chunk of your life. It's, and for Frieren, it's not.
Yeah, it's just a Saturday for her.
Yeah, because I think she says coming up, I only knew him for 10 years. For him, that was such a long time to get to know people, but for an elf, it's not, which is really interesting. And I really like, because I think, this happens in other media as well. I'm going to use Star Wars as an example. Chewbacca is like hundreds of years, like he's like 100 years old or something. Han Solo is like 30, 40, 50, whatever, like pick whatever movie you want to pick. But like humans often have the lifespan of like a dog compared to a human when you're talking about a human compared to an elf, like, or some other long-lived race. And it's like, yeah, like for their whole life, they spent time with us, but it was just a small part of our life for them. And I'm really curious to see how the rest of the show explores that concept, because it is such an interesting concept and something we don't get in a lot of fantasy because of the time scale that we're used to.
And even just them referencing these measurements of time, you don't really get that at all in much fantasy or much media in general, where, yeah, you see the training montages and stuff or them fighting their way through, but you don't, like, they never really break down that, you know, this happened on day one, this was 2 months in, this was a year in, this was 2 years in. So them putting fixed time references in, you can start to understand, yeah, just how epic a story they're telling here, where it's going across. We've missed a decade already here, but we sort of see in the scenes coming up. Then we jump 50 years within the span of a couple of minutes as well. So you're like, man, they are really canvassing a lot of time here, not only in this episode, but throughout the story holistically as well. But this sort of interaction with the party of heroes here sort of ends where, yeah, we've got the era meteor shower, which occurs once every 50 years. And it was very fitting that the meteor shower begins, that welcomes in the era of peace. So there's some nice
celestial timing there on that one.
Yeah. The stars aligned on that one. But yeah, even in this situation where Frieren's like, I know of a good place that has a better view that you can sort of see the meteor shower. We should go there.
Which implies that she's done this like before as well. You know, like, oh, well, I've been around 50 years ago when I saw it at a better spot. Like, yeah, I know. Not only does she know a better spot, but it implies that she's seen it at least once before and possibly multiple times before, because she has comparison of like, oh yeah, this is a better spot to watch it. Like, that's yeah. It just gives you like this, because so often, like, I mean, again with Frieren, she doesn't look like she's hundreds of years old, which is such an elf thing as well, that you forget sometimes. Oh, right. You are hundreds of years old. That's so foreign to a human lifespan.
Yeah. And you see, like, this moment for me, I had a little bit of a heart sink moment too, because she's like, yeah, in 50 years from now, I'll take you to this better place and we can see a far better view of the meteor shower. And I already, in my head, I just flash forward thinking, man, she's going to be here alone at this next meteor shower. Like, they'll all have passed by then and she's going to see this by herself. And I'm like, I'm not ready for that lonely meteoric moment, because it's going to break my little heart.
Yeah, I think the dwarf in most things would be alive still, but even still, like, yeah, the two humans, the hero, he would be 70 something.
Yeah, and the priest you'd feel would be tipping 100 or so, because they make fun of how old he got even in that decade they just had, where he aged out to old man status, I think, is what Heimel said.
I get the impression he's like mid-30s to 40s, like he's older than the rest of the group, and he has aged. He feel like, because when you start to get to your mid-30s, you're like, yeah, no, I can feel it. It happens.
I'm feeling it right now, listeners. My back be hurting.
Yeah, that's it. So like, he has to be his mid-30s or 40s, and you're thinking like 50 years for him. I don't know.
Especially because he's heavy on the drink too. You feel like he might not last 50 days, let alone 50 years, because yeah, he's a boozy priest. And I like the constant jabs he gets throughout this first episode as well, where they talk about how corrupt he is and how evil he is as a priest. Like, just these little quips that they throw at him. Like, it all comes from a good place and he laughs it off. Like, there's no venom attached. But yeah, he constantly gets a bit of a verbal beating about his debaucherous ways as a priest, in parentheses. So we jump forward to the next day, and the party is saying their goodbyes. And it's funny, they're having a bit of back and forth, you know, what are you going to do next? And Frieren's like, yeah, I've got the next 100 years or so planned out. I know what's going to be going on. I'm going to be traveling around the Central Lands, collecting new spells. but I'll be sure to stop by during this little quest she's going on that goes for a century. And then Haida says a really cool line here, who's our boozy priest friend. And he goes, the way elves see this world is a mystery. And I like just that, again, folding in of just little observations, little lines, these little poetic moments that build out the world, but also create more intrigue at the same time. And yeah, that line as well was another like a little nod where I'm like, yeah, I'm loving this, Ben.
Yeah, no, I definitely am with you there. Great storytelling as well.
And then this is the next part where we get the sort of the sped up 5 decades worth of questing and exploring done within the span of several seconds here. So we get this first image before we start seeing Frieren doing her thing, where we've got a static scene and we're seeing the time jump done where they do, the fast forwarding through of the days and nights and the seasonal changes. And it's accompanied by this absolutely gorgeous piece of music that just helps tell that story again. Like there's no dialogue. It's just this static image, day into night, summer into autumn, into spring, into winter, et cetera, with this really gorgeous piece of music. And then we start to see Frieren weaved into this time jump as well, where she's reading, she's traveling, she's haggling in storefronts for things, she's helping out people. And also, which is something I forgot to mention at the RIP, where they were having some back and forth about their decade-long journey. She got stuck in a mimic chest early in the episode, and that gets referenced. And lo and behold, she's stuck in yet another chest because she's eternally optimistic that she's going to find the next great tome in one of these chests.
Yeah, I think you'd learn after a couple decades, but
clearly not. Clearly not. And after we jump out of this time-based montage, we see Frieren's in a store. And she's trying to she wants to buy a shadow dragon horn. And this is what you mentioned earlier in the episode, Ben, where she wants this dragon horn for a summoning spell, can't find it in the stores that she used to find it in. But then she remembers, she's like, oh, I gave one of these to Heimel back in the day. And also the meteor shower is happening again soon. So she'll pick up the horn when she visits. So you go, oh, okay, that time period then that we just saw was 50 years.
Yeah, exactly. Which then leads us to like us, the audience, thinking like, is he going to be there still?
And my heart wasn't ready for that. Like I'm very fragile when it comes to certain media that I watch. I don't know if I've just got like just such an extreme level of empathy and just overall wussiness in my body, but like I can get very emotional and get very teary-eyed and very invested very quickly. And I was already very invested in this moment where I'm like, I'm not ready to say goodbye to Heimel already. Like I've only known him for 10 or so minutes as I've watched this anime, but I want more of this relationship and of this camaraderie between the four on this screen. So please don't return to Heimel's village and knock on his door and find out he passed away years ago, Frieren. Please don't give me that right now.
Or even just like, oh, he passed away last year. Like, she just missed him. That would be just the worst. But thankfully that wasn't the case here. They didn't throw too many gut punches into us in this first episode. So, yeah, she makes her way back to the royal capital. She bumps into this old man. You hear the voice. You hear Heimel's voice, and this little old man gingerly steps out of the shadows. And he's got a cane. He's balding. He's got a very impressive beard and a nice big bushy curly mustache. He looks fantastic, but he's a very meek old man. And the first thing that Frieren says to him, she's like, "Mate, you're looking near ancient." And that made me cackle. That one got me so good because she's so dry and just does not hold back on her observations. She always says what she's thinking. But that, getting called near ancient just got me good, Ben. Yeah, because she's just been looking at the statue of the heroes, like the statue of her as well in the city. And so to see that, like, that's a great visual reminder of, okay, this is what he's supposed to look like. Here he is now. Must be interesting living like as the hero, walking past that statue every week to see, yourself as a young man. And then we get to go to his house and we see that he's got this horn that he's been taking care of, and he's been treating it as this like relic that his elven friend gave him to look after. But for her, it was just like, oh, can you hold on to this for me? Thanks. It's not a big deal for her.
Yeah, that made me crack up too. Yeah, like he saw that as like treasure entrusted to him by a dear friend. But yeah, Frieren was like, it's just an ingredient for a summoning spell that I want to do. Like, it's all good. I just didn't want to carry it at the time. Appreciate you, bro, type of thing. So
yeah.
you're seeing that contrast again as far as the value that Frieren and humanity put into things or don't put into things, and just the level of care where, yeah, it's just a day in the life for Frieren, where, yeah, this is a life for Heimel, and it's evidenced again by this shadow dragon horn.
I think she says it's a convenient ingredient as well, which leads me to think that there must be another way to do the summon spell that's inconvenient, but it's somehow more inconvenient than a shadow dragon horn, which has to be difficult to obtain to start with.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, we don't really see in this episode the power that any of these four heroes had or have. Like, we know they've defeated the Demon King, but we don't see any spells getting cast, any swords getting swung, anything like that. It's all about the flow on of that. We know that they've taken the Demon King down, but how they did it, no one knows. Are they really as strong as the stories that will be told about them for centuries convey, or is it a bit of smoke and mirrors? So who knows? But after Heimel's finally gotten ready, because he takes a lot of pride in his appearance still, he still thinks he's a good-looking man. I like that he's got holds himself in high regard. He is Heimel the hero after all. But he's ready, steps out, meets Frieren outside, who's been very impatiently waiting for him. And then the party of heroes are back together, and they start discussing, going to this perfect spot to view the meteor shower. But then again, Frieren, just with her complete lack of concept of time, she's like, yeah, it's about a week's walk away. And they're all like, what? A walk that far at this age? Like, are you crazy, woman?
Yeah. And there's an interesting moment where she is getting impatient for him outside his house, but it has to be, again, it's no time for her. Waiting an extra 30 minutes for someone to get ready has to be nothing for her. But she's back in this human city on a human time scale. Like, she gets impatient, which I think is interesting. Like, the people around her impact her scale of time, which probably would happen if you're used to spending 50 years out in the world, traveling, walking, gathering magic spells, and then suddenly you're back in a busy human city. You would feel like, well, now everything is moving so much faster, I have to keep up.
Yeah, that's a great observation, Ben. I completely agree. Like, yeah, when she's out doing her own thing, time goes at whatever speed it goes at in her head internally, where, yeah, that wheel's turning regularly for everybody else. And then when she's back in society and having to wait or fall back in line, it really throws her for a loop. And you can see throughout this episode, yeah, even though she is several hundred years old, she's still very much, it feels like she's teenagery or early 20s in the mindset where, yeah, she's a young adult, she's a young woman, but there is this childlike intrigue that they really hammer home, especially with the mimic chests. Like, she's got the curiosity of a young girl where she wants to know what's in there, or she's optimistic that, this chest is the one that's going to have the tome in it. It's not going to be another mimic that's going to get me. This is the one that's got pay dirt. So she's got this childlike curiosity in her, even though she's 2, 3, 4 times as old as the other characters we've met so far.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know at some point later they meet some other elves who are twice her age and they are adults, and we're like, oh, hang on a minute, maybe she is like a child compared to the other elves. But it's, yeah, elven lifespans are very strange. But yeah, then they go on this journey that mimics what must have been some of their 10 years of adventure together, going to this spot to look at the stars. And we get some of that excellent montage scene again, them traveling, encountering a monster. We do get a glimpse of some of their power.
Yeah, Eisen still got it. He takes down this giant like demonic wolf type of creature, and yeah, one shots this thing pretty much.
Yeah, and then we get to this gorgeous mountain lake, where the water is so still it reflects the stars, and so when this star shower happens, it's not just above the heroes looking up at the sky, it's below them on this lake that they're looking over as well. And it's beautifully animated, beautifully be positioned and shot. And then we get the gut punch.
Yeah, We do get the gut punch. But yeah, that scene, it is one of the most beautiful scenes in this whole episode, where we're seeing the meteor shower sort of take place, and they're just enjoying one another's time. They're doing this thing somehow 50 years later since the last time. But one thing I wanted to touch on super quick again, another one of these poetic lines where Heimel's narrating that week-long journey to see the meteor shower. There's a line here where he goes, "As I brush the dust off each memory, there you all are, right behind my eyes." And I'm like, God damn, this writing is special.
Yeah, that was a really good line.
Yeah.
Some excellent lines in this show that, if this is just the first episode, I can't wait to see where it keeps going. And it, because as somebody, pretty heavily involved and invested in fantasy stories, there are some lines in this that I go, damn, that's good. That is like insightful. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's consistent. Like, I'm not going to spoil anything, but that level of quality and level of writing is consistent throughout the entirety of these 28 episodes. So you're on a good path ahead, Ben, I got to say. But yeah, you mentioned the gut punch comes because after the meteor showers ended, we jump forward back to the capital again, and we find out that Heimel, the hero, has passed away. And you're like, oh no. It hurt, but also I'm like, okay, it felt to me like he was holding on all this time for that one last adventure, that one last moment, that one last memory with Frieren and the party. And he got that, so he can sort of die a happy man. So even though it hurt and it was like, oof, this one hits right in the guts pretty hard, I also went, you know what? He went out on his own terms, it felt.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, for someone his age, going on that hike 1 week out, 1 week back, like that's, if he got the all the way back, it was implied that he kind of died after the meteor shower, I think. So I mean, we're seeing the funeral, and we're seeing all the people in the city paying their respects, and you just see how many people that Heimel impacted in his life, and how, maybe not directly, but by being one of the heroes, how much people's lives have been impacted by them. And there's a line during the funeral in this church where one of the civilians, one of the people in this town, comments on Frieren about how she doesn't look sad, she doesn't look upset. But that hits later.
Yeah. And that moment too, I really like, you could just see Haida, the debaucherous priest, he steps in because, there's people at the funeral starting to throw a lot of shade at Frieren about, it looks like she doesn't care, she's showing no emotion. And then Haida jumps in, he's like, hey, no, we all feel that way, and sort of tries to take a bit of that attention away from Frieren and absorb some of that impact. So I like that, like, even though this is 50 years on since they last adventured, Haida at this stage is, in his 80s or 90s or close to 100, I don't know. But even in that moment, he's still got enough guile there to jump in and be like, I got your back, friend.
Yeah, Haida as well had a full, swap. No longer a drunkard, no longer a alcoholic. Seems to be on the straight and narrow as well.
Yeah, he's given up the booze. We find out a little bit further on from here, but he got his life in order, I guess you could say. But yeah, after the proceedings take place in the church, we then jump forward to where Heimel's grave is being laid to rest, and there's a part here where you can see Frieren really starting to process what's happening here. And another scene here, it's beautiful, like seeing just the dirt being sort of laid on over Heimel's grave, which is also something I don't really see or remember too often happening in anime very much. These little nothing moments, well, not nothing, but it's not big impacts, not big action, there's not big set pieces, it's just real relatable stuff. And this is where Frieren states that she hardly knew him. 10 years wasn't enough to learn about Heimel as a person and get an understanding of who he was both inside and out. And that's where you see the tears just start to fall down her cheeks. And you can see in this moment, I think she has a light bulb type of scenario play out where she's like, oh, so this is how fleeting humans' lives are in comparison to the life I'm living. And yeah, you see her start to break down. The tears are flowing. Eisen and Haida comfort her. And even though she is distraught and crying everywhere, she still does a little dry quip where she's like, hey, my head is still not for padding. Thank you very much. But this scene here with the funeral procession coming to an end and seeing Heimel getting laid to rest, another big impactful moment. But it was beautiful again, Ben.
Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, the music underscoring it really did a great job setting the mood. I think it's really interesting that our elven character, who has a different scale of time, has a different, like, it takes her longer to process these emotions, to like reach these understandings that she has, which I think some of us, we all have moments where, you know, we've had something horrible happen and it takes a moment for that to really hit home. I think that it is a great scene, and we do see, like, okay, yes, she did care for, like, we know, we knew from the audience, we know that she cares for this person, but to like see her cry and be upset about it, like, okay, yes, she does care, she is upset. And to have, I think it must be something that must happen to every elf who goes out into human society. Every elf that goes out into human society has to have this moment where they realize, oh, humans die so quickly in compared to an elven lifespan, that they must, it's not, like, it has to happen. An elf goes out, makes a friend with somebody, comes back 30, 40, 50 years later, and that person is old, and, you know, and they die, and it's, you know, it must be such a rite of passage in elven society.
Yeah, it's something that I like, gets touched on in Frieren, but also I guess the biggest fantasy we could throw out there, you know, like the Lord of the Rings is the biggest one, not only from a money revenue perspective, but I think just a global awareness. Like, yeah, even people that aren't fans of fantasy as much, most of them have seen Lord of the Rings and
Lord of the Rings is
that world.
Absolutely the forefront of, like,
it's the
cultural
pillar, right?
zeitgeist. Like, it's what people think of when they think of elves and dwarves. It overrode other fantasy. Elves, in like much older views of like mythology, elves were like pixies. They were small, they were like get into your house and make shoes, and they were mischievous and little. And then Tolkien comes along with his noble high elves. I mean, there are other examples in literature, but like Tolkien really established that and built on it. And that is the elf that we most think of today.
Yeah. And seeing, I always think of Aragorn and Arwen and their, you know, forbidden love, and the human and the elf and their relationship. And yeah, even though Aragorn does live far beyond most human lifespans, it's still fleeting in comparison to that elvish lifespan. And yeah, so I think, yeah, Frieren is having that moment of realization here where this is going to be a constant for me. Anyone that I grow attached to from the human world will come and go in comparison to my my almost eternal lifespan. So I think it all hits her at once here. Yeah,
I mean, even we've have it established at this point in the episode that, like, our dwarven character, he's feeling old too. Like, he's getting old in years. He doesn't look as aged as the rest of the group, but, you know, we get the impression that he is going to age faster than she is, and that this is going to be something that she's going to have to deal with for the rest of her very long life, which is probably, I mean, we don't see many dwarves in the world that we've in this first episode, but we definitely don't see any elves apart from Frieren. So, like, it makes sense why I'm guessing in this world elves don't mix that much with humans, because if you mix with a society and you know that everything here is temporary, none of these people are going to be here the next time I come back. Some of these buildings might be gone the next time I come back. Everything is temporary in this world. Of course, you're going to want to spend time with your people.
Yeah, because imagine having to say goodbye in such a regular frequency in their mind, where, yeah, even though it's a decade, it's 50 years, whatever time frame, that still only feels like weeks or months. So that attachment would build up and that bond is established, and then they're gone, and then rinse and repeat. So
yeah, it's no wonder that elves in so many fantasy stories are aloof and distant from the rest of the people. It's not just because, you know, they are these mysterious magical beings. It's because they have to be. Like, they would struggle to form attachment with people knowing that they are going to, like, yeah, sure, we can go on this 10-year journey together, but then you're going to die and I'm going to have to keep living.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack, and I understand from an elvish perspective, why they would want to just isolate themselves and live with their kind and live a full, complete life, I guess you could say, in comparison to the humans and even the dwarves. And we see that reflected, the coming days after the funeral here, where again the party is meeting at the crossroads. They're all saying goodbye here, and Haida, he's going back. We find out, he's sort of reformed and he's going to the holy city, going back there. But there's a sweet moment here where he sort of bends down before he jumps into the carriage to go on his journey, because he wanted to have one last look at Frieren before, I guess, he feels his time is coming next, because death's happening. And Frieren's sort of questioning Haida here about the fear of death, or his lack of fear of death in this moment. And there's another line here where he goes, you know what, we're the party of adventurers who saved the world. I'd like to think our seats in heaven have long been reserved. You're like, God damn, that one again, just smooth, seamless storytelling and world building that's impactful. And I was eating up these lines again. And so Haida jumps into the carriage, rides off into the sunset. But then Frieren asks Eisen, would you like to continue adventuring with me again? Let's do it one more time. But we start to realize that even Eisen is slowing down. And it's hard to gauge, because he's a stoutly, densely built man. All you really see is his eyes, because he's got his helmet on and all hair everywhere. So you can't really see underneath that helmet and hair and beard what he's looking like from an aged perspective. But he conveys it pretty quickly here, where he's like, you know what, my speed isn't like it was, my strength isn't like it was, I'm far too old for that now. And so they say their goodbyes, and Frieren here says to Eisen before she goes, we'll meet again someday. And you're like, oh, that's open-ended but also sweet. But yet again, like you said, Ben, Frieren embarks again on this journey onward alone, and you're like, man, I'm so sad. Like, my heart bleeds for this elf, because she's living this life with little pockets of time, with interactions and people she's bonding with, but for the most part, she's just out in the world by herself. And I think she likes that a little bit, but also I think she's realizing maybe she needs a bit of companionship too, off the back of Heimel's passing.
Definitely, her passion is magic. And she's like wanting to learn more spells and become a better mage. So that's her passion. And so I think we see that is like her drive still. But yeah, absolutely. These her friends, if we can call them that, because she only knew them from her perspective 10 years. They're going off on their own separate ways. And we start to, like, by this point in the episode, we're like, oh, this is a very lonely person.
It makes me sad, man.
Yeah. And then we have towards the end of the episode, she goes and visits her friend.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because the reasoning behind the visit. So again, we get a time jump. We don't really get explained how many years it is or whatnot, but we flash forward again, and Frieren is lost in the woods. She's trying to work out where she is, trying to get to a certain place, and a young purple-haired girl named Fern crosses her path, helps her out of the woods to where she wants to go. And where she ultimately wanted to go was to go to Haida's grave, because she just assumed the old priest had passed away, and she bought some good alcohol to have a drink and pour some out for her fallen brethren here. But we find out that the old priest is alive, and he's been living a cleaner life. He's given up the sauce. And so you're like, God damn, okay, I thought you'd be the first to go, and yet you're still hanging in here. Heimel has since passed, obviously.
Priestly life agrees to him.
That's the exact line he says, right? He's like, the priestly life agrees with me, and he, reading the holy literature has helped him live a clearer and cleaner life, and that's why he still is here today. And as Haita knows that his time on this world is soon to expire, he asks that Frieren takes on Fern as an apprentice. But yeah, like you said earlier, Ben, she's opposed to this idea. She doesn't want to have a human get in her way, is one of the reasonings she said. But I also think she doesn't want to have this moment of saying goodbye and losing yet another person. I think that's probably the subtext here we're getting.
Yeah, I think and also, I mean, she has a way of doing things, and we don't know if she's set in her ways, but the idea of like a young human running around, I think, would be annoying in the way that, like, if you don't want a puppy running around your feet, that's something you don't want to have to deal with. But then, this priest, he's a clever one.
He's a very clever one.
It says that he has this book that has some powerful magic in it, possibly for resurrection and immortality. Whether or not it does, I don't know at this point. But he says, "Can you translate it?" And she says, "Oh, yeah, it's pretty interesting. Okay, why not?" And yet, while you're translating it, would you mind teaching her some magic? Just bits and pieces. Yeah, 5 or 6 years. Okay, sure.
Yeah, it's very cheeky and very expertly done from Haita here, where he knows how Frieren thinks and the way to get ultimately to his goal as far as having Fern become her apprentice and learn the art of magic under Frieren. And the old misdirector is like, I've got this tome from the tomb of Ewig the Sage, and let's just casually drops in, might lead to resurrection and immortality. Like, what? Okay, there's some powerful spells out there in this world.
Yeah. I mean, we see Fern practicing magic up on a cliff, and we see that, like, she's not as good as Frieren, but she's obviously got some power to her already. So she's the magic. Again, first episode, I don't know the scale of magic possibility in this world, because so far we've seen 2 spellcasters, and one of them killed the Demon King, and the other one is not even an apprentice yet, but has good potential. So we don't necessarily know what the power scale is for magic in this world. But Frieren, I think, comments that she has some talent.
Yeah, and she comments here because we don't spend any time with Frieren starting to do too much as far as deciphering the tome, but she goes looking for Fern, and she finds Fern standing on the edge of this cliff, just overlooking this vast landscape. Another beautifully animated scene here, stunning shot. But as she sort of crawls through the thicket and finds Fern, she was like, "You were really hard to find." And Fern sort of says that, Master Haida was never able to find me because she's really good at masking her mana, which is making her pretty much close to being invisible. So you start understanding the power and the stakes as far as where magic slots in here, where it's okay, so you can feel someone's mana, you can feel someone's energy, and based off maybe how powerful they are, that energy or that mana reading would be more visible or be more discoverable. But there's also ways to mask and hide how powerful you are. So I'm like, man, how many mages are going to be hiding out there as almost sleeper agents that are super powerful, but you'd never know it because they can sort of keep that under control. Yeah. So there's just this other little layer of power and that potential power struggle that creeps in just this little line, this little interaction between Fern and Frieren. I'm like, ooh, more intrigue. I'm so curious as to where this slots in.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, wizards, like, if I was a wizard, I think I would want people to know that I was a wizard. Because if you're in a world where, like, fights and things happen, wouldn't you want people to know that you're a wizard so they don't fight you? Because it's like, this person's got some magic. I don't want to deal with that. They've got some power to them. I can sense it. But if they want to, like, hide that magic, like their presence, there has to be reasons for it. Are there organizations that go looking for wizards? Are there creatures maybe that are drawn to wizards? We've heard the Demon King. Are demons drawn to magical power and they sense it? Yeah, first episode in, and I'm already thinking about possibilities here. And Frieren comments like, she's really good at that actually. So we don't know how powerful she is, apart from the fact that she can't fire a beam of magic across this this canyon to hit the other side. She can't quite make it, but it's a big distance as well.
Yeah, it's like hundreds upon hundreds of meters. Like it is across a giant chasm here, and she's up there trying to blast this rock on the other side because Master Haida was saying to her, like, if you can blast a hole in that giant rock over there, you will become a proper mage. So that's sort of the bar that's been set. Like if she can hit that rock, she'll become a mage and I guess break out of the apprenticeship, so to speak. But the episode ends where Fern's feeling upset that no matter what she tries, her magic won't make it to the other side to hit the rock. But then Frieren asks her if she actually likes magic. And Fern, who's similar in personality and in delivery, like very relaxed, very cruisy, very dry, she goes, yeah, I like magic somewhat. And Frieren sort of smiles in this moment. She's like, oh, that makes us somewhat alike. And the episode ends right there. The ED kicks in. It's a song called Anytime, Anywhere by Millet. And it is a beautiful piece of music. But like I said at the start, the art that accompanies the ending here is stunning. And it further just sunk more hooks into me in this ending because the imagery combined with this song just left me feeling very happy, very content with what I just watched in this first episode, and definitely left me with a lot of questions and wanting and needing to know more.
Yeah, I definitely felt the same. It was, beautiful ending. I mean, there are some shows have an ED that you're like, oh yeah, skip next episode, thanks. But I think this one was really nice. So many anime have they almost feel like placeholder art in their EDs. This one, it's good art. It's good work. And it's a great song that really it ends the show nicely. And I think if I was watching this in a binge sitting, it would flow nicely into the next episode.
It really does, man. It really does. I'm a serial binger and I wasn't able to do it with Frieren because I'd be watching that day one drop every time, but I can picture it in my head where this song just segues episode into episode so seamlessly because it's just a delight. Like it is such a beautiful song and it just lifts you up, even if there is some low points emotionally that are getting told in the story. Having that ending kick in just picks you back up and rebuilds that potential broken heart that you've just been dealing with in the scenes prior.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I guess we'll shift into the final couple of questions I've got for you on this episode of More Than Hentai. We're tackling Frieren Beyond Journey's End. I wanted to go, first question, I guess it probably is answered without even me asking, but are you going to continue to watch Frieren Beyond Journey's End?
Yes, I will.
Well, I'm happy for you because you can binge because, this first 28 episode run was completed in March of this year, so a couple of months ago. So depending on how busy you are over the coming days and weeks, you can chew through this at as fast a frequency as you'd like. So that's exciting. That
is the benefit of having a list of shows to watch, is that the shows that you recently add to your list, by the time you get to it, they've finished the season, so you can binge it.
When we were sort of doing the back and forth before landing on Frieren, like the list you shared as far as on your to watch list, like there is some heavy hitters on there that you're yet to dive into. So you are going to be very spoilt over the coming weeks, months, years, however long it takes for you to work through that very definitive list. Like there is some great anime to be consumed there, but I'm happy that you're working through Frieren now. I wanted to ask, favorite scene or moment overall in this first episode?
That's tough.
It is tough. I struggled with this one too because it feels like the episode as a whole is just one big moment for me.
Yeah. I think my favorite scene is going to be the time skip, the 50-year time skip, because we do get a great feel for time passing, how Frieren is exploring the world, and what is effectively the crux of the series. It is this character has a different scale of time than we are used to, than many of the other people in this world. And that difference in time scale is going to drive story points forward, I feel. And I think we've got that in that scene.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that stood out for me. But I thought, upon reflecting on this again this morning, because I did a rewatch again of episode 1 just this morning, just to make sure it was super fresh. And that final journey they went on together, that 10-day journey to see the meteor shower, just that scene as a whole, I feel just encapsulates this first episode and just this story in general, and then tied into some of the narration from Heimel there, like that line about the brushing the dust off memories. Like, man, that just got me so good. But like, I don't think there's a wrong answer to be had, because this first episode's just full of so many great moments and takeaways. It's really, really well written and really well directed as far as how the shots are framed and the pacing. I just feel it's one of the most perfect first episodes that I can remember from a personal standpoint, at least.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's of shows I've watched recently. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great first episode, and so many shows don't really get you with the hook until the second or the fourth episode. I mean, probably second episode these days. I mean, shows seem to have shorter seasons than they used to, so they can't afford to wait until the fourth episode to really hook you. But yeah, I think it's a great first episode, and I think that if you watch it, you will get a feel for how the show is going to go. You got a feel for some of the characters. Definitely one, like the character for the show, the titular character, Frieren. Yeah, I think it's a good first episode. I think it's really going to get people who, if you like the first episode, I expect you'll like the rest of the show. I can't see it doing a big flip or a twist that would change how because there are some shows where the first episode it's a sneaky episode designed to lull you into a sense of security, and then either the second episode or the end of the first episode, like your like Madoka Magica, like it's designed to lull you into a false sense of security and then flip everything on its head.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to spoil this journey for anybody, but if you're still on the fence about Frieren, the most 5 commonly compared to, if you like that, you're going to love this anime on my anime list, are the 5 following: Violet Evergarden, To Your Eternity, Wandering Witch, Mushishi, and Spice and Wolf. So 2 of those we mentioned earlier throughout this episode organically. And yet, like, those 5 phenomenal pieces of storytelling. Violet Evergarden is one of my favorite anime of all time.
Yeah.
And even though they're completely different universes, there is that same style of storytelling and focusing on those quieter moments and letting them marinate that you see in Frieren, you see in Violet Evergarden. So yeah, if you've watched any of those 5 and you've really loved that, there's a fair chance you're going to really love Frieren Beyond Journey's End. I personally scored this season a 10 out of 10 because you can't do decimal pointed scores on my anime list. And I'm like, I feel this leans closer to 10 than 9. So I gave it a 10 out of 10 on my anime list. And it was sort of my joint favorite from 2023 with JJK season 2, just because some of those big moments in that season hit hard, and Frieren hadn't finished at the time when I did these awards at the end of 2023. But looking at it now, if I look at Frieren holistically, I'd probably put it as my number 1 anime of 2023 because the storytelling is so good. The animation is great. The use of sound is great. And it's just a world that I am obsessed about now. And Frieren as a character, I love her. And there's no fan service in this. There's none of those lowbrow tropes that we're so used to in fantasy storytelling within the anime realm. There's none of that. This is real, grounded, wholesome, heartfelt storytelling. And it's so different to anything else out there in the fantasy world that I've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It's a great first episode only. Great story. I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. I have such a limited run of shows from 2023, so I don't know if I can necessarily, compare it to other things. I think probably the shows that I was watching were already like kind of cream of the crop. Yeah, I think this was great. I'm looking forward to watching more, and I'm keen to see where Frieren, where her journey takes her, and what is going to happen with this new sneaky apprentice that she now has but doesn't realize she has.
She's a great character, Fern. And we see some other characters in that OP that I'm not going to reference, but like some of the other characters you meet in subsequent episodes really just fold into this world seamlessly and add really good value to the story. But Ben, let's jump into the last word presented by our friends over at Japan Crate. Experience Japan through snacks and knickknacks via monthly package shops courtesy of japancrate.com. And while you're there, be sure to use code 8bit15 at checkout to get yourself 15% off your order and free shipping to anywhere on planet Earth. So Ben, what is your last word, your last words, your last thoughts on Frieren Beyond Journey's End?
This is a story that takes an elf as a main character, a character that we've seen elves in so many different kinds of media, and they're always the aloof, slightly quirky, usually magic users that we're so familiar with, and makes them the main character, and then puts the story in their time frame. For this character, 50 years is not a big deal, and we learn with this character that 50 years can be a big deal emotionally, because you lose people and things change. And this is something that hasn't been explored much in media, at least anything I've consumed. The world is beautifully animated. The characters are lovable, charming, and I think it's going to be a fantastic warm hug of an anime to keep going with.
I think that's the perfect way to describe it. Like, this anime is a warm hug, and like, you know, it's the number one rated anime on my anime list now. Like, it's overtaken Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Like, it is the number one rated anime out of every anime in the world on that website. It's not just from the last season or the last year. It is from anime of all time. So that in itself means you need to take some time out to check out at least the first couple of episodes. I know a few people that didn't vibe with it because they're so used to that high energy, action-packed fantasyness that is just running roughshod through most of anime these days. So this does stand out, and it can be maybe a little bit of a whiplash going from that to this, but it's a whiplash that's worth exploring because it's so
absolutely.
special. So
absolutely.
special.
And I think, I mean, possibly the My Anime list is a good indicator of quality, but the number one ranking, I don't know if it's going to sit there for very long. Often these new shows, people who will like those kinds of things will watch them, rank them highly, and then as it makes its way into more mainstream, that ranking will drop slowly. I can see it standing the test of time. Is it the same quality as Full Metal Alchemist, Cowboy Bebop? What else is the top? Gintama's up there, which is...
Gintama's up there too, which is a choice. Like, I love Gintama, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's in the top 3 or 4 of all
Gintama is not
time.
what I would show somebody who is getting into anime for the first time. Gintama is what you show somebody who has been watching anime for a decade, and they will get all these jokes and tropes, which is why it's ranked so highly on my anime list, because my anime list is compiled by anime fans.
Mm-hmm.
But it absolutely deserves its current ranking as number one. I hope it stands the test of time. I hope we get more in the future. You said you've been reading the manga, so I'm hoping they're going to be animating more of this. It's hard to say with the current anime industry if we'll get more of it in any time soon, but hopefully we do.
Yeah, got the fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching more of this.
Hell yeah. That makes me very happy that it is a successful recommendation / agreed upon viewing here. And yeah, Frieren Beyond Journey's End available here in the AU on Crunchyroll. But as I mentioned, some locations around the world also have access to it via Netflix. But Ben, thank you so much for stopping on by. It's been an absolute hell of a discussion here on More Than Hentai. One last time, where can listeners find you, and shout out to anything else you've got coming up that these listeners and viewers need to check out?
Yeah, thank you very much. So yes, I am Ben Keenan. I'm everywhere. I am at Ben Keenan, BenKeiRnan. It's I before E, except with me.
You use that often, don't you?
I do. It's odd spelling, but it is what it is. I am DM for the Dungeons and Doctorates podcast. That is DN Doctorates on Twitter and Instagram and all the places. We have weekly releases on Thursdays. 200 episodes roughly on all your podcast streaming things. It's a great story, fantasy universe that was a D&D campaign that I ran for many, many years before I introduced new characters into that well-established world for this podcast. If you like the idea of meeting people in a fantasy world, but like at a fantasy university where there's a barbarian student society that go on pub crawls, and there's a card game society playing a monster battle thing in a fantasy universe, there's a rogue society, there's a library underground, there's a wandering mountain that dwarves live in. It's a great little story with some fantastic characters. You can check that out right now on all your podcast viewing things, Dungeons and Doctorates. If you can't find it, it's because we have an ampersand as our and that can sometimes trick up the algorithms. Currently working on a new science fiction, sci-fi horror podcast, which I'm not quite ready to reveal, but if you follow me on social media, you will find that. I do some fun things out in the Twitters and the Twitches. Some great people out there. I'm sure you'll see me around at some point if you follow me on social media.
Yeah, and I've got all of Ben's links in the show notes below. So yeah, if you're having a hard time searching them through the Google browser, just click those show notes in the episode and go check out all the fantastic that Ben and his crew are up to, because well worth your time. And be sure to rate, review, subscribe, not only this podcast and Ben's podcast, but all the podcasts you're listening to. Those ratings and reviews, they take no time. They cost you no money. It's just good karma. So pay it forward, because those ratings and reviews help keep the lights on and keep us tracking, keep us relevant. So if you can do that, please do. Also, if you want to throw some money our way, you can join the Segoy Squad over at morethanhentai.life, get you exclusive access to perks, giveaways, swag, and more. If you want some additional swag, we've got our web store over there as well. So you can get yourself t-shirts, hats, hoodies, and everything else in between. Some really, really fantastic anime-related merchandise on there. So yeah, morethanhentai.life. Follow me on the socials at More Than Senpai. And whether your anime be subbed, dubbed, or still yet to come, enjoy yourself, stay hungry, and much love to all of the gorgeous waifus out there. Goodbye.
Thanks for having me.